The afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows of Master Wong's renowned martial arts academy in Wanchai, casting long shadows across the polished wooden floors where dozens of students practiced their forms. The rhythmic sounds of punches hitting heavy bags and the soft shuffle of bare feet created a symphony of discipline that had echoed through these walls for over 30 years. Jackie Chan wiped the sweat from his brow as he finished demonstrating a complex sequence to a group of younger students. At 22, he was still considered an upstart by many of the traditional masters, despite his growing reputation in the film industry. His unorthodox style, a blend of kung fu, acrobatics, and pure improvisation, often raised eyebrows among purists who valued rigid technique over creative adaptation. Very good, Jackie encouraged his students, his voice carrying that distinctive enthusiasm that would later become his trademark. Remember, kung fu is like water. It must flow around obstacles, not crash against them. The peaceful atmosphere was suddenly interrupted by the sharp crack of the main door slamming open. A tall, imposing figure strode into the academy with the confidence of a man who had never tasted defeat. Kenji Yamamoto, a renowned karate master from Tokyo, moved with mechanical precision, his black belt tied so tightly it seemed to cut his waist in half. Behind him followed 3 of his disciples, each wearing expressions as stern as their masters. Master Wong, a thin man in his 60s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, approached the visitors with a respectful bow. Master Yamamoto, what brings you to our humble academy? Yamamoto's cold eyes surveyed the room, taking in the flowing movements of the kung fu practitioners with obvious disdain. I've heard much about this place, he said in heavily accented Cantonese, his voice carrying like a blade through silk. They say Hong Kong Kung Fu is the finest in the world. I came to see for myself. The students gradually stopped their practice, sensing the tension that had suddenly filled the air like smoke before a fire. Jackie noticed how Yamamoto's gaze lingered on him with particular interest, or perhaps it was contempt. We welcome all students of the martial arts, Master Wong replied diplomatically. Perhaps you would like to observe our training methods? A harsh laugh escaped Yamamoto's throat. Observe? I've already seen enough theatrical dancing for one day. He gestured dismissively at a student who was practicing a particularly graceful crane form. This is not fighting, this is performance art. Jackie felt his jaw tighten, but he remained silent, remembering his master's teachings about controlling one's emotions. However, when Yamamoto's eyes locked onto his, the Japanese master's next words cut through the air like a katana. You, Yamamoto pointed directly at Jackie. I've heard you're some kind of movie star who thinks he can fight. Show me what Hong Kong Kung Fu really is if you dare. The challenge hung in the air like incense, heavy and inescapable. Every eye in the academy turned to Jackie, and he could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on his shoulders. Master Wong stepped forward, clearly intending to intervene, but Jackie raised a gentle hand. I accept your challenge, Master Yamamoto, Jackie said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline beginning to course through his veins. But where should we spar? The main floor is occupied by students. Yamamoto's smile was sharp as a winter wind. Anywhere you choose, boy. It won't matter. Jackie's eyes scanned the academy before settling on a door marked equipment storage. A crazy idea began to form in his mind, the kind of wild inspiration that had always set him apart from traditional fighters. The storage room, he said, gesturing toward the door. More intimate setting. Yamamoto's disciples exchanged glances, clearly puzzled by the choice, but their master merely nodded. Lead the way to your defeat. As they walked toward the storage room, Master Wong caught Jackie's arm. Be careful, my boy, he whispered. Yamamoto has never lost a fight. His karate is like a steel blade, sharp and unforgiving. Jackie smiled, that characteristic boyish grin that somehow conveyed both humility and unshakable confidence. Don't worry, Master Wong. Sometimes the best way to deal with a steel blade is to be like bamboo, flexible enough to bend without breaking. The storage room door creaked open, revealing a cluttered space filled with training equipment, cleaning supplies, and various tools of the martial arts trade. Perfect, Jackie thought to himself, as Yamamoto strode confidently into the center of the small space, assuming a classic karate stance that spoke of decades of rigid discipline. What happened next would be talked about in Hong Kong martial arts circles for years to come. The storage room seemed to shrink around the two fighters as they faced each other among the scattered equipment. Yamamoto stood like a statue carved from granite, his fists positioned with textbook precision, every muscle in his body coiled and ready to explode into devastating strikes. His breathing was controlled, mechanical, the product of countless hours of disciplined training in dojos where tradition was law and innovation was heresy. Jackie, by contrast, appeared almost relaxed as his eyes quickly cataloged every item within reach. A bamboo broom leaning against the far wall, 3 metal buckets stacked in the corner, jump ropes hanging from hooks, wooden practice swords scattered on shelves. To most fighters, these would be obstacles. To Jackie Chan, they were possibilities. "Are you going to fight or redecorate?" Yamamoto's voice dripped with contempt as he noticed Jackie's wandering gaze. The crowd of students pressed against the doorway, Master Wong among them, all holding their breath as if the slightest sound might shatter the electric tension. Some had pulled out their phones. This was 1976, but a few early models existed, hoping to capture what they were certain would be either an epic victory or a devastating defeat for their beloved instructor. "Traditional karate," Jackie said conversationally, beginning to circle slowly, "is like a perfectly crafted sword. Beautiful, deadly, but—" He paused, his hand casually brushing against the bamboo broom handle. "Only useful in the right hands, in the right situation." Yamamoto's eyes narrowed. "Enough philosophy. Show me your kung fu." The Japanese master exploded forward with the speed of a striking viper, his right fist cutting through the air where Jackie's head had been just milliseconds before. But Jackie wasn't there anymore. In one fluid motion that seemed to defy physics, he had ducked, grabbed the bamboo broom, and spun it in a wide arc that caught Yamamoto across the midsection. The karate master stumbled backward, more surprised than hurt, but Jackie was already moving. He flipped the broom in his hands like a master chef with a cleaver, using the handle to deflect Yamamoto's counterattack, while simultaneously hooking one of the metal buckets with his foot and sending it sliding across the floor. "Impossible!" one of Yamamoto's disciples whispered from the doorway. But Jackie was just getting started. As Yamamoto regained his balance and launched into a series of lightning-fast punches and kicks, Jackie began to move like water given human form. He ducked under a devastating roundhouse kick while grabbing 2 jump ropes, his hands working with supernatural speed to create what looked like a web of moving obstacles. Yamamoto's next punch caught nothing but air as Jackie bent backward with the flexibility of a circus performer, simultaneously wrapping one of the jump ropes around the karate master's extended arm. Before Yamamoto could react, Jackie had pivoted, using the man's own momentum to send him careening toward the wall, where the second bucket was positioned perfectly to catch his foot. The sound of Yamamoto hitting the wall echoed through the small space like thunder, but Jackie wasn't finished. In a move that would later be called impossible by everyone who witnessed it, he grabbed the falling broom with his foot, kicked it up into his hands, and used it to vault over the stumbling karate master, landing behind him with cat-like grace. "Your karate is strong," Jackie said, not even breathing hard, "but it expects the world to stay still." Yamamoto spun around, his face red with embarrassment and rage, but Jackie had already positioned himself next to the stack of wooden practice swords. As the master launched forward in what was clearly intended to be a finishing move, Jackie's hands moved faster than thought itself. 3 wooden swords flew through the air in perfect sequence, not aimed at Yamamoto, but at the wall behind him. They struck with precise timing, creating a rhythmic drumbeat that somehow caused Yamamoto to instinctively duck and weave, his disciplined mind unable to ignore what sounded like incoming attacks. In that moment of confusion, Jackie struck, but not with fists or feet. Instead, he grabbed the 3rd bucket, spun it like a shield, and used it to redirect Yamamoto's final desperate punch directly into the soft padding of a hanging heavy bag that had been positioned just right. Yamamoto's fist sank deep into the padding, and for a moment he was stuck, arm extended, balance compromised. Jackie could have ended the fight with a dozen different strikes, but instead, he simply placed a gentle hand on the master's shoulder. "The fight is over," Jackie said quietly. The room was silent except for the sound of Yamamoto's heavy breathing. Slowly, he extracted his fist from the heavy bag and turned to face Jackie, his eyes wide with something that might have been wonder. "How?" was all he managed to say. Jackie smiled and gestured at the chaos around them. Broom, buckets, ropes, and practice swords all scattered exactly where his improvised choreography had placed them. "I didn't fight your karate, Master Yamamoto. I danced with the room." The silence in the storage room stretched like pulled taffy until Master Wong's gentle applause broke the spell. Soon the sound was echoed by the students crowding the doorway, their faces showing a mixture of awe and disbelief at what they had just witnessed. Jackie had turned a cramped storage room into his personal stage, transforming everyday objects into instruments of an impossible symphony. Yamamoto stood in the center of the controlled chaos, his perfect karate-ji now wrinkled and dusty, his iron composure completely shattered. For 30 years, he had built his reputation on the unwavering foundation of traditional technique. Kata practiced 10,000 times, strikes honed to razor precision, a philosophy that demanded the world conform to his discipline. In less than 2 minutes, a young man with a boyish grin had shown him the limits of that thinking. "I don't understand," Yamamoto said, his voice barely above a whisper. He looked around at the scattered equipment as if seeing them for the first time. "You used everything. How did you know where each item would be when you needed it?" Jackie carefully picked up the bamboo broom and began setting the room back in order, his movements as fluid and natural as breathing. "I didn't know," he admitted with characteristic honesty. "I trusted." "Trusted what?" "The moment." Jackie hung the jump ropes back on their hooks, his voice taking on the tone of someone sharing a secret. "Master Yamamoto, your karate is beautiful, like a perfect poem written in stone, but stone doesn't bend." He gestured to the room around them. "When I walked in here, I didn't see obstacles or weapons. I saw possibilities. Every object was connected to every other object, waiting for the right moment to become part of something larger." Yamamoto's 3 disciples had entered the room now, their faces showing the same confusion as their master. One of them, a young man with earnest eyes, spoke up. "But how can you fight without a plan, without knowing your technique?" Jackie's laugh was warm, infectious. "Who says I didn't have technique? Everything I did followed the principles of Kung Fu. Flow like water, bend like bamboo, use the opponent's force against them. But I let the room teach me how to apply those principles." Master Wong stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on both men's shoulders. "This is the difference between learning forms and understanding the art," he said. "Jackie boy here doesn't just know Kung Fu, he lives it." Yamamoto shook his head slowly, still processing what had happened. "In Japan, we have a saying, 'The nail that stands up gets hammered down.' We believe in perfection through repetition, strength through discipline." "And that's not wrong," Jackie said quickly, not wanting to diminish the master's lifetime of dedication. "But sometimes—" He picked up one of the wooden practice swords and held it vertically, perfectly balanced. "Sometimes the nail needs to learn to dance." With a gentle flick of his wrist, he sent the sword spinning, where it landed perfectly back in its rack. The simple gesture somehow contained everything he had just demonstrated: precision and improvisation, control and freedom, all flowing together like notes in a perfect song. Yamamoto bowed deeply, a gesture that sent ripples of shock through his disciples. "I came here believing I would expose weakness," he said formally. "Instead, I have learned that my own strength was incomplete." "We all have more to learn," Jackie replied, returning the bow. Perhaps you could teach me some of your kata. I promise to show you how to make them dance." The suggestion hung in the air like an olive branch, and slowly, Yamamoto's stern features softened into what might have been a smile. "I think," he said carefully, "that would be educational." As the group began to file out of the storage room, the students chattering excitedly about what they had witnessed, Master Wong caught Jackie's arm one more time. "You realize," the old master said with twinkling eyes, "that story will be told for years. Every time someone tells it, you'll get a little faster, the room a little smaller, the victory a little more impossible." Jackie grinned, that same boyish expression that would charm audiences around the world. "Good," he said. "Maybe someday it will inspire someone else to see possibilities instead of obstacles." And indeed, the story did spread. Throughout Hong Kong's martial arts community, in tea houses and training halls, the tale grew in the telling. How Jackie Chan had defeated a karate master using nothing but a broom, some buckets, and pure imagination. How he had turned a storage closet into a battlefield and emerged victorious not through superior force, but through superior adaptation. But for those who had been there, who had seen the dance of improvisation and the poetry of possibility, the real lesson was simpler and more profound. That true mastery isn't about controlling the world around you. It's about learning to flow with it, to find harmony in chaos, and to trust that sometimes the best technique is no technique at all.